fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome to the land of the rising sun for this round of Club Day Masters. We are racing at Twin Ring Motegi, on the road course, of course, though never rule out that oval. It's an interesting oval around here, and an interesting facility it is, but we are going to be going racing, as per usual, tonight, with our two classes of car. As always, up the front, the Audi RS3 LMS representing TCR, and in our Club Day style, the Global Mazda MX-5, where the racing has always been super close and super competitive in a car like that. I'm David Haynes, I'm joined by Cam Dance. Jay Kennedy is producing. Cam, this is an interesting little track. It's love it or loathe it, I think, because it maybe doesn't get talked about in the same way some other Grand Prix tracks do or Australian favourites do, but occasionally it does rip out some good racing.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those underrated tracks out there on the service that I think a lot of people, once they've driven it and raced on it, actually do enjoy quite a bit. But weirdly enough, it just doesn't seem to be popular amongst majority of people. So it is what it is. But nevertheless, we're going to be hopefully seeing some exciting racing. And like you said, it does tend to produce some really, really good racing, regardless of the car they end up with.
Here is that track. It is a little stop-start through the opening sector. Long pit straight into double 90 degrees into a straight, into double 90 degrees into a straight, but then the sector outside of the oval starts to get a little bit more interesting, a little bit more sweeping. 7 and 8 then feed into a place at 9, where if you have a good run through those corners, you can kind of surprise someone, get down the inside and make a move there. And then, of course, tight hairpin at the far end of the track at turn 10 then feeds into probably one of the best overtaking opportunities, as the track then drops rapidly downhill into a difficult braking zone for turn 11. A lot of passing can happen there, and then you feed back inside the oval through turns 12 and 13. Opened in 1997, it is a pretty recent facility, all things considered.
Yeah, certainly. And it used to be a test track as well, if my memory serves me right, from Reese's Facts. So it's certainly got everything you could possibly want in a test track, which certainly makes it a very, very good racetrack as well. So it's certainly one that ends up being quite the experience to drive around.
Certainly. So let's take a look at how we are fighting after 7 rounds. In the TCR, Jack Boyd, I think, managed to extend his championship lead a little bit last time out. It's looking pretty good for him. 1,740 points. Therefore, ahead of Jackson Rehana, Aaron Oliver, Angus Cook, and Christopher Henn. And then, of course, in our other division of the Mazda MX-5s, Caleb Hydes has been a little bit running away with it. Sean Doyle still there to keep him on his toes, and then 2 points between Sam Lehman and Nick Skariev. Anthony Connors and Brady Buchanan, Philip Paradiso, Adam Sharp. Dylan Burse has sort of jumped ship, woolalood and changed colours into the TCR, so we're not going to see him score any more points in MX-5. And then Marlon Fraser rounds out that one, Cam.
And so certainly Hyde's starting to run away a little bit with that one in the MX-5 class. Everybody's sort of keeping him honest, like Doyle, and that certainly giving him a little bit of a run for his money. He didn't have a great night out as well in race 1 last round, so we'll see what's going to happen here at Motegi, and we'll see if he's going to be able to score some reasonable points. But qualifying on at the moment, just under 10 minutes to go, and currently it's Jack Boyd leading the way at the top of the timesheets, but Angus Cook is not too far behind at the moment, only about 2 and a bit tenths separating the two.
And the way they're currently all in a line, there's not going to be much to separate them. So we'll see if this is how it continues for all the qualifying session, or if at one point the leader decides they're going to pull out of this, or someone decides that they can't improve with the traffic. But there they go, underneath the banked oval and then into this final sector where you kind of got to be careful how you approach the curbs, that you keep it within the bounds of the track limits, and that you set up well to launch into a new lap on the pit straight. So more times are going to come in, and Jack Boyd improves, stays at the top. Vantagiato improved. Glenn Boyd improves into third, but we are really still in the sort of opening section of the qualifying still for the TCR cars. They'll still be building temp and pressure.
Yeah, they'll still be getting those tyres up to temp and pressure at the moment, with the fact they've only done a handful of laps so far. Caleb Ides comes across the line and improves it on his lap time to put himself at the top of the timesheet by a very, very nice margin over Lachlan Capel in second at the moment. So once again, dominating the MX5 class is Hides with a very, very nice lap time there.
Sure is. I was, for a second in that light, I thought he had some interesting sleeve tattoos, but he was just wearing gloves.
I was kind of looking at it myself a little bit, going, what is he wearing? And then realised it clicked after a little bit. But yeah, certainly got the gloves on there, trying his best.
I'm glad our collective 5 brain cells were able to work that one out, Cam. Angus Cook, is he looking at the timing? Is he looking at the relative box? He was having a good look down there at what was going on as he seeks to improve from second place. I think he's one of the few drivers who's gone again for a new set of tyres, so he's trying to find some different positioning, trying to get away from everyone else, trying to stay away from the MX5 traffic as well and do something different.
He's only just come out of the pit lane about a lap or so ago, so he's going to see what he can do later on in this session. Jackson Mariano just coming out of the final corner as well, with a large train of Audi TCRs following in behind him. He's got Vantagiato just tucked in behind Lee Harrison, and pulls out of the way. A 2-minute 2.173 is fastest time of the session so far, and lets Harrison go, who also does his quickest time of the session and puts himself P2 at the moment.
Yeah, almost everyone in this pack improved. Track temperature 21 Celsius, so not super hot out there for the MX5s. What does that mean? Well, Brady Buchanan's in an interesting spot here in the pack. Is that Lehman in front? Nope, it's Nick Skariev, who was covered perfectly by the blind spot on the A pillar. Oh, Skariev pulls out, and Buchanan's going to have to navigate carefully the final set of corners and see if he can improve. So Connor's back there. Whoa, Lachlan Capel goes for a bit of a ride as Anthony Connors pulled out of the fast lap, I think in front of him there, but Buchanan, yeah, didn't see an improvement there myself.
Yeah, so he's going to have to go around once again to get a lap time on the ball. Vantagiato just coming through the back end section of it, the circuit down towards the other pit lane that the circuit holds. Obviously, with multiple layouts, it's going to have more than one pit lane. And coming through the hairpin and looking like it's not been too bad of a lap. He's got Harrison tucked up right in behind him. The two slipstream cars trying to use each other as a little bit of a draft buddy. And then we've also got Rehana and Boyd not too far up the road. So Vantagiato will be getting a nice little draft, and Harrison will be getting an even better one. So we'll see what lap time is going to be this time by.
Absolutely, still free of traffic on this one compared to the MX5s because it's qualifying, but TCR and MX5 are out together at the same time, so that presents some trouble mainly for the TCR cars, but of course also for the MX5s. We're going to see who improves on this one. Jack Boyd does at the top of the timesheet. Ivan Vantagiato improves to go second. Andrew Hobby sets a personal best, but only fractionally, and will stay in 8th at the moment. So I only saw about 2 or 3 improvements there. Remember, here's Angus Cook, all on his lonesome, feeding through that sort of middle sector on the outside of the track. And into turn 9. I say keep an eye out there because he really can spring a surprise on someone and not leave them much time to defend the move. Looks like Philip Paradiso in front of him on track though.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to encounter Paradiso on this lap. If he does, it'll be right at the end of the lap, and I don't think he's really going to end up being a hamper at all anyway, so we'll see what's going to happen. But Cook coming down towards turn 11, trying to break as late as he can, and so far just going to run a little bit wide there, and that might have compromised the lap time a little bit, but we'll see what the number's going to be when he comes across the line and getting the wheel very much, well, the hands going certainly through the final sector. Getting a little bit of a draft from it. Paradiso on the way down towards the start-finish line. What's the number going to be? It's going to be a 2-minute 2.177, so just shy of improving on his personal best so far.
One more lap, 2 more laps, not sure, but yeah, that was probably frustratingly close to improving on that one, and he will remain in 5th for the moment. I'm seeing almost everyone from MX5 just chilling on the pit lane right now. Capel, Lehman, Skariev, Doyle, Connors, Paradiso, Greg Hobbs, all of them just sitting in the pit lane. Only cars are out on track. It's Caleb Hydes, Brady Buchanan, Darren Sharp, and Hayden Jackson, who we're looking at right now. The only driver of 21 across both classes yet to put a time on the board. I think that'll change on this lap.
It should change on this lap that he's currently on. Hasn't gone off track, at least from what I've seen, so we'll see what the lap time's going to end up being. But very, very interesting that pretty much all of them are chilling on pit lane at the moment, not deciding to go for another run. We'll see a few of them out there as well, but not everyone out there, so rather interesting to see that everybody's more or less called it quits early on in the session. But we'll see what Jackson's going to be able to do on this lap, and he's got Cook coming up reasonably quick behind him, so he might have to be a little bit cautious here and might just have to back out of the lap if Cook catches him too quickly.
The support paddock, support pits. Cook cleanly gets around him, no problems there. Oh, except there is for Hayden Jackson, who then misses his braking marker.
Yeah, not certainly something you want to be doing, and he's as a result towed it back to pit lane, knowing that the lap is now well and truly in the bin, and he's not going to be able to get out and get another lap in, unfortunately. So he's going to be starting at the back of the MX5 field with no time on the board in qualifying. Richard Brookfield, though, currently sitting P7 in the TCR class, looking to try and improve on his lap at the moment in the dying seconds. He's only just going to be able to finish this lap and get the lap time on the board, but decides to bail into the lane with no clear improvement happening there. And that's another thing as well. That pit lane is going to be very, very tricky, and drivers are really going to have to be careful not to cut it and be over eager, as they're not going to want to get a penalty at all. So we'll have to keep an eye on that in the race and see what's going to happen. But coming across the line in the background is Brady Buchanan, and he's going to set a lap time, or he's not, and that's going to be an invalid lap, so his qualifying is over, and he is going to start in the 4th for MX5s.
You make a good point about that pit lane entry here. It is ridiculous. Ridiculous. A really tight chicane. You can get penalised for cutting on the pit entry. That's one for them to look out for in the race as well. And race 1 is coming up now, 30 minutes, and this is how they're going to line up. Jack Boyd has the pole from Ivan Vantagiato and Lee Harrison. Glenn Boyd. Teammates on row 3, Angus Cook and Jackson Rehana. And then the remainder of the TCR field is Richard Brookfield, Andrew Hobby, Shannon McMillan, and Matthew McMillan.
Then you're going to have Caleb Hydes and Lachlan Capel taking the front spots in the MX5, and then you go back to Lehman and Buchanan for the 2nd row, Skariev and Doyle for the 3rd row, and then you're going to have Connors, Paradis, so Sharp, Holmes, and Jackson to round out the 21 car field.
standing start here at Motegi. They're all beginning to line up. And it is always fun for the leading MX-5s on these starts as their rear-wheel drive and low first gear just launches off the line initially a little better than the TCR cars in front before the turbocharged horsepower really starts to kick in past 50 kilometers an hour or so. Jack Boyd has been king of the race starts, king of the restarts, and he is going to lead the field away in race 1 of Club Day Masters. And he's got a decent enough launch down towards turn 1. Behind him, though, it was Andrew Hobby trying to make a little bit of moves, looking eagerly to the inside. Nothing too much going on there as your MX-5 leader, Caleb Hides, goes door-to-door initially with some of the TCR cars. Behind Skariev with Sean Doyle, etc. It is all kicking off as well in that MX-5 field. So it didn't quite qualify where maybe we would have expected. But he's getting racy on the start as track limits. What are they?
Yeah, a couple running off in the TCR class on the way through turn 3 and 4 on cold tyres, and that's really one of those corners that catches you out on cold tyres if you're not careful, and it's clearly caught quite a few out. It's now this little pack just outside the top 5 is really bunched up now. Hobby leads it from Rehana, Brookfield McMillan, and Shannon McMillan as well, so they're all backing each other up after what happened there in the start, but very, very nice jump, I must admit, from Angus Cook as well, further up the road, managing now be right on the tail of Lee Harrison Vantagiato, challenging for a podium.
Oh, dramas for Hayden Jackson in the S's. How did that start, and who else is involved? Darren Sharp is. I didn't quite catch it, but that would have been somewhere around the back of the MX-5 field. So, is there a slowdown being served there? Whoa. Wait, no, not yet.
Well, no, that's Jackson going around on his own by the looks of it. Oh, and then it gets clipped on the way by.
Well, there you go, a little bit of lap 1 drama, but not at the front of the field. A little bit further back. Lap 1 is now scored as Jack Boyd converts that pole position into a race lead ahead of Vantagiato and Lee Harrison. Hyde's trying to run away with the lead in MX-5, but then behind him, that's where a lot of the action's been in that category. Sam Lehman's running second, but there's been others like Skariev, like Sean Doyle, that have also wanted to stand on the podium of late.
Yeah, they certainly have, and Sean Doyle will be wanting to move up a few more positions as well to try and keep that gap as close as he possibly can to Caleb Hides as well, who's trying to break away a little bit. It's got a little bit of a gap back to Sam Lehman, but we'll see what's going to happen over the course of this race, and bearing in mind that safety car as well going to be coming out at some point, as well as pit stops, so it'll shake the field up a little bit and give the likes of Doyle a little bit of a chance to catch up to the front of the field.
The leader with Nick Skariev at the moment. He doesn't look like the student driver. He looks like the instructor. Little yellow ducklings behind. But this is a weird place to get held out wide coming out of the banking. Sean Doyle's then going to have to go around the outside and aggressively. It's going to become the inside, but he's gone all 4 off there, has he not? This is an interesting sight for Anthony Connors.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's looking around the outside, but he's going to have Skariev up his inside, and then Skariev with contact on Doyle, and Doyle ends up going around, unfortunately, but Skariev going to redress on someone else involved as well.
Greg Holmes, I don't know, maybe he saw Sean Doyle trying to recover and wasn't sure which way he was going to roll. Let's take a look again. Something a little more off-board. Doyle tries to chop around the outside, ends on the grass, has no momentum coming down to turn 9, which I called as an action zone, and then Skariev, is he going to make the corner? And here is, I just wasn't sure. Yeah, Doyle had started rolling, and it's always tough to know which way the car is going to go when they're sort of middle of track and there's a narrow envelope of space to one side and the other.
Yeah, certainly. Unfortunately, if Greg Holmes end up in that one with nowhere really to go in that situation. But Scariev has redressed the position to Doyle, but unfortunately they've lost a heck of a lot of time, and both of them going to come down onto the lane as well to get their pit stop out of the way early. With how much time they've lost out there to try and work together, so we'll see what's going to happen there. But less back at the front of the field, Jack Boyd and Vanchigiato and Harrison, and also Cook, all still reasonably close together, but have been line astern in the last few laps or so. No real major movement or anything going on between these four, but Manchigiato seems to just be starting to drop off the back of Jack Boyd a little bit, but that said, they're also starting to come up on a little bit of lap traffic as well, and the former Hayden Jackson, who's going to get out of the way just nice and easy for them to all get by.
Well out of the way. Space and space and space is Doyle leading Scariev off of the pit lane. Very simple pit exit for a very complicated pit entry. And he continues the leading GCR field. And a second pack is what Andrew Hobby is in the middle of. Sam Shafin, Rayhana, and Brookfield here. He's getting a good run towards key overtaking opportunity sort of at the bottom of this downhill braking zone, and we know that downhill braking zone extends the length of the braking zone. You've got to get on the brakes earlier for longer, and that makes it a far more interesting and tempting overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, it certainly does, and certainly that corner lends itself to opening the door as well with the way that it's just naturally shaped as well, so you're going to tend to find that guys will typically launch one up the inside if the opportunity presents itself. On board with Rayhana at the moment, he's got Andrew Hobby trying to hunt him down at the moment, looking very reasonably close, and Hobby has to also remember that Brookfield's not too far back as well from him, so these three are going to have to sort of try and work together as best as they can, but also still race for position, and Hobby not too bad of a run out of there as well.
He is figuratively, literally right underneath the rear wing of the car in front. Here is more pit callers. We've got Matthew McMillan from TCR. Got Sam Lehman, who was second in MX5. So he's gone early compared to the front runners in his class.
Mason has gone a little earlier than everybody else, so they're trying to get out of that possible safety car drama as well. So we're getting that out of the way nice and easy to try and help himself, and I'll be running a little bit wide, just dropping two wheels in the grass briefly. And, I've lost a little bit of time to Rayhana as a result of that, and that's allowed Brookford to close up. But we'll see what's going to happen here at the hairpin, and whether Hobby's going to maybe be able to close that gap down nicely. Does close that gap up, so a lot later on the brakes. Now's the exit. It looks like it's in favour of Rayhana, so just didn't quite get the exit that he would have hoped for there.
And Hobby with the Circuit Excel SA sticker on the car should remind Jay to check his emails. In the middle of this fight, still looking at Jackson Rayhana. But bit of action at the front here as we see who's going for the pit lane. Take a look at this pit entry. You've got to keep it on the paved stuff, but it is like trying to get a car park at the shopping centre or something. It's all the steering lock required, and you really got to back it down, and maybe even look for stray trolleys.
Yeah, certainly very, very much a little bit of a
bit of reverse gear there for Lee Harrison, I think it was. Must have been Lee Harrison. Missed his pit box just by an itty bit. Jack Boyd says thank you, and he is going to steam out on track with a little bit of a lead ahead of Lee Harrison, then Glenn Boyd, Jackson Rayhana, Andrew Hobby. So Rayhana and Hobby have not done too badly out of that, have they?
Yeah, they've gained a little bit out of that as a result of the pit stops. So nice little gain, and should help them later on in this race once everybody else starts to cycle their pits. Oops.
Anthony Connors finds his pit crew. And there's one car that definitely looks like it needs it, and then also Philip Paradiso. leaves just Caleb Hydes and Lachlan Capel at the front of MX5 yet to pit. Hydes has been caught the wrong side of the safety car in these races before. So I guess when you're the leader, it's always tempting to run a little bit longer, stay in the clean air, but eventually too long and the house always wins. The odds go against you. And you find yourself maybe sometimes caught the wrong side of the safety car if you're unlucky.
Man, certainly makes it for an interesting strategy, and usually you'll find everybody pits a little bit early just to try and avoid that safety cars. It's a very late lunge by the Summit Simsport driver there, but just can't quite get the move done, can Reihana, and that's allowed Andrew Hobby to really close up to the back of him on the way down towards turn 11. Reihana's going to look to the inside to try and break the draft, but not really going to be much gain there. And Hobby very, very late on the brakes, all over the back bumper now.
You wonder if these guys are going to lose out by battling like this, because all the other cars in class are on the pit lane right now. They want to, ideally, get around onto the pit straight as fast as possible without battling each other. Save it for after you've undercut some of the other competitors. So here they come right back into the fray. But Brookfield's going to be behind them, but comfortably in front of them, Angus Cook.
Yeah, no real change in that top 4 order at the moment after those pit stop cycles, but Glenn Boyd having to go a little bit defensive on it. Reihana there on the way in to turn 3. And it's just going to hold on to that position. Hobby's looking very, very racy, wanting to try and find his way on by these two, or at least one of them at some point. He's just sticking the nose out, looking to the inside round and going a little bit defensive as well, try and cover off Hobby, and going wide is Boyd as well, and that's going to allow the door to open for Reihana to get a move up the inside. Boyd's going to have the inside for the following corner. We'll see if he's just going to be able to get his nose back in there, but Reihana's going to end up being successful and take that one off him. Or is he? Because he runs a little bit deep on the way in to the following corner. Now Boyd's going to try and hang it around the outside of Reihana. They're going to go side by side into the following corner. Hobby left with nowhere to go, and Reihana's going to end up making contact with Boyd, and they're both going to end up running wider. Hobby and Reihana managing to carry on, but that's now allowed Brookfield to really get into this little fight.
Yeah, just go on TCR spec, mash the throttle, steer yourself out of it after a little tap on the rear bumper, and Hobby's going to give him another one, is he? So close through the hairpin on the far side now. They're door to door. That was action aplenty when we thought that position was going to belong to Jackson Reihana. Glenn Boyd has defended it for all he is worth. Now down the hill, Hobby is on the inside, Reihana is on the outside, and just as Hobby gets his nose in front, the safety car gets called. Well, if you want to be rewarded, you've got to put in the effort, and that safety car has come at a time that I'm sure Andrew Hobby is glad he just got his nose in front.
Yeah, certainly a very, very well-timed move there by Andrew Hobby to get that position off him in just the nick of time. So he'll gain at least a position there and move into 6th place, and he won't be too far off the back of Glenn Boyd off this restart as well, as well as the top 4. So we'll see who's going to end up being involved in this top 4 fight off the restart, along with those top 4 currently occupying those spots.
Cam, you able to recap our big winners and some of our losers since lap 1 and the pit strategy?
Not really much in terms of actual change between positions, to be honest, in terms of the TCR class at least, but there's been a few gains in the MX5. Anthony Connor's up a few spots, now currently sitting in 4th in class, and a few losers as well, but not really any sort of big movers. Everybody's sort of only really gained 2 or 3 positions by the looks of it.
You're right, I looked at it myself. Our top 3 in TCR running as they qualified. Angus Cook and Glenn Boyd have swapped between 4th and 5th. And then Andrew Hobby's gone from 8th on the grid to be running in 6th at the moment. No one caught the wrong side of the safety car this week. I have to say, maybe it was a little later into the race than some other times as well.
You've usually seen it come up a little bit earlier than it has this time, but this is what it is. And at the end of the day, it is randomly called. So we have to see how much time is going to be left when we go green. I'll be presuming it will be something close. I want to say about 11 or 12 minutes worth of racing. So won't be too much in terms of racing left, but still enough for a lot of drivers to get moves done.
For sure. Where were we last week, Cam? Was it?
Hockenheim.
It was
if I
Hockenheim?
remember.
I think this is just track a tiny bit shorter than Hockenheim, so we should get to the safety car a little bit quicker as well. Because this full layout of Twin Ring Motegi is 4.8 kilometers. I think Hockenheim was somewhere in the 5 point something kilometers. Hey, Jackson having the laps of his life, the only looking like the only MX-5 that needed a wave around.
Yeah, so no real wave rounds to happen this week at least. But I must correct you. Hockenheim was actually 4.5 kilometers, so it's actually shorter than this track, actually, which is a little bit fascinating.
What was the pace car speed there?
About the same, if I remember correctly.
Well, I will be damned. Yep, the Grand Prix layout of Hockenheim Ring is 4.5 kilometers. Back in my day, etc. He says that as someone who was 7 years old when Hockenheim Ring got chopped up.
If you want to do a proper back in my day, you'd go back to the very original Hockenheim, which was much different to, well, very, very different compared to what it is today. And it was actually quite a bit longer as well from memory. It was about 12 kilometers.
Yeah, back when they, went all the way into the center of town, sort of like, same deal as Le Mans used to do that as well for 2 or 3 years before they went, so not bother with that. His lights are off on that safety car. That Porsche. And even all the way out through the forest layout of Hockenheim Ring, the one from the 70s all the way through into the 2000s, still shorter than the current layout of Spa.
By how much?
Oh, about 200 meters.
It's actually quite impressive, I must admit. I wouldn't have thought it was that long, though, based on just how it drove. Yeah, I'm actually surprised it's that much longer.
Reese does these kind of facts way better than us. We're a poor imitation.
Poor man's serious track guides.
Announcing our new spin-off, Slightly Serious Track Guides. Is that Brady Buchanan?
Yes, indeed it is.
Hardly recognise him outside of the high-vis.
I mean, surely the plane wouldn't, I want to say? Wall gives it away? From
the aspect
shots?
ratio as much as anything. What flavour of Monster is that? I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I can't comment on that one either.
All I know is that the one that I really, really, really want, Monster and Java Monster, isn't legal to sell in Australia because you're not allowed to add, lab formulated caffeine to brewed coffee beverages. If it's got caffeine from brewed coffee, you're not legally allowed to add more. So
Today I learned.
elect me, and we're going to bring Java Monster to Australia.
Already have one vote here.
I'm running for Brisbane Lord Mayor, and I'm going to make KFC 24 hours.
I wouldn't say you'd have 2 votes, but unfortunately, one of us in the comments box can't have it anymore. Rip Jay.
Neither of you two can vote in Brisbane City Council.
True.
So I don't know if you're allowed Java Monster in Kiwi land. I don't know. Soon, everyone will be relieved from this boring tedium by the fact that there's only one more corner before the safety car pulls in, and then 2 more before Jack Boyd takes us racing in the last 10 minutes of race 1. We're going to do it all again in the same format for another 30 minutes for race 2, but to bring race 1 home, Jack Boyd is making him wait, and this is his favourite way to do it. He doesn't like to go too early, and he's still waiting out of the final corner, and he's still waiting, and when's the green flag going to drop? Right before it does, he puts the power down, and tell you what, that's bad for the... well, it's good for Summit, that's all.
Giato and Harrison caught sleeping there, and I think there was a little bit of contact there on the way into turn 1 as well between the 2 teammates, but Angus Cook trying to sweep around the outside but couldn't quite make anything happen there. Andrew Hobby looking very, very racy on Glenn Boyd as well, just in the background, but not quite going to be able to get a move done this time into turn 3. At least everybody going to be a single file for the most part, even in the MX5 class. No one really making any sort of moves happen in the end.
They've learned their lesson from lap 1. Through turn 4, everyone kept it within the track limits rather than all going grass mowing as they did on the first lap of the race. So Jack Boyd still leads from Vantagiato and Lee Harrison. Angus Cook is something a bit more on the back foot. So too, the battle between Glenn Boyd and Andrew Hobby is going to resume as well.
It certainly is going to be resuming after that restart, and only a handful of minutes to go as well in this race. So it's going to get very, very much crunch time, as Rayhana had a look up the inside of Hobby but couldn't quite get a move done. And also just seeing as well, I think it was Vantagiato just running a little bit wide out of the corner there to turn 9 and managing to get back on. Hasn't lost too much time to those behind, but top 4 haven't really broken away like they did early on in the race. So it's certainly all possible that anybody could move up the order here and get on the podium.
And that looked like Shannon McMillan, who ended up a little bit wide. And of course, with the front wheel drive cars, once you get one of your drive wheels off the paved stuff, the torque steer from the remaining one on the paved stuff continues to try to push you off. So you've either got to really commit to it going wide, or it forces you to get off the throttle a little bit. Good swap back from Hobby, but then he also suffers from getting the drive wheels in the filthy stuff. And Hobby leads, Glenn Boyd leads the train. Andrew Hobby can't get to the inside, and Rayhana wasn't fully sure which way to go with that. Hobby could find himself vulnerable here. Having attempted a pass, Rayhana could get underneath him.
He certainly could possibly try and set something up here if he can set it up right and be able to gain a position. But Rayhana looks to the inside to poke the nose out, try and force a mistake out of Hobby, but not quite going to be able to have that happen and turn his fortunes around there. And Hobby nearly running off the road as well out of turn 4. Again, Rayhana just trying to fill the mirrors of Andrew Hobby, but just not quite close enough to make a move at this stage, and Hobby not really being too phased by the little bit of trickery going on behind him.
It's just starting to create a bit of a gulf between the top 4 and 5th on back, whom you are looking at. Brookfield coming on strong amongst these guys. What a huge dive here down the inside of Andrew Hobby from Jackson Rayhana. And I think he's not quite clear, and then the track goes back to the right at the next corner. He is going to get it, though. And now Brookfield looks down the inside, and I think backed out of it a little bit early, but he showed the nose, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly looked to try and possibly make a little bit of a move, but thought better of it and knew that it wasn't going to work out the way that he hoped, so just backed out of it and decided to slot in behind. In the end, it cost himself a little bit of momentum on the exit of the corner. Back in the MX5 class, though, not a lot really happening at the moment, as Caleb Hydes has decided to run away from the rest of the group as he goes by in the foreground. And then you've obviously got that train of Lehman, Capel, Connors, Doyle, Buchanan, Scariev, and Paradis just in the back shot of that little train. So still all to play for is a big dive from Lachlan Capel up the inside of Sean Lehman, and he's really compromised his exit there with a lack of momentum, possibly even missed a gear, and that's going to allow Anthony Connors to sweep around the outside with a very, very nice move on the way into the final two corners.
Yeah, it's rare you see someone manage to get around the outside on the way into the final corners, but good move from Connors, and that is wide on the grass between turns 3 and 4, I think, for Vantagiato, and he's lost a spot to Harrison, he's lost a spot to Cook, and now look at Glenn Boyd trying to shape up on him.
He just went a little bit too deep on the way into turn 3, and he had Harrison up his inside as well, so possibly just got a little bit spooked by his teammate being there, and Cape was going to launch it back up the inside as well, back in the MX5 class of Anthony Connors. But Connors going to try come back at him, and Doyle trying to look in there as well and get involved in this little battle as well. So the top 3, well, second, third, fourth, all really scrapping it out, looking to the inside just briefly. Anthony Connors to try and fill the mirrors, but no real reaction from Lachlan Capel there.
Now he is the battle pack behind Lee Harrison. This has really let Jack Boyd get away a little bit as well. He is enjoying a 2-second lead. For Lee Harrison, Angus Cook, Ivan Vantagiato, Glenn Boyd, all battling with what is going to be 2 more laps when they come to the line. That's if I can count backwards correctly. Big send down the inside. Another look from Rehana on Glenn Boyd. And just rolls out of it. But he's had a few big lunges. Not all of them have managed to come off.
Yeah, he's certainly been very, very aggressive to not try and get moves happening, but just can't quite seem to end up completing them entirely. So he's certainly going to want to get a little bit of a move on if he can and try and work this one out. He hasn't got too much longer to try and gain positions here, and he's got Hobby all over his back bumper as well. So possibly just struggling a little bit at the moment, but certainly not out of this entirely. And looking up the inside of Angus Cook as well, just in the foreground is Vantagiato to get that move done onto the podium, and contact between the two of them, and around goes Vantagiato.
Well, that's interesting. Let's have a look again. Was Vantagiato too ambitious?
Hard to really tell, but
I feel like Rehana even went off the track wide here, so... Oh. None of these are a helicopter, Jay. He Cook had his nose in front on the way in.
Down that top view and just up the inside, and Cook more or less couldn't really do anything there.
I don't see Vantagiato making that corner even before the contact.
Well, and both suffer the price as a result of the mistakes going on there. There's MX5's MX5 battle still going on between.
He was, I thinking that was my internet.
It was actually all 3 of us, so it certainly was the server.
Maybe a lightning strike somewhere in Sydney, but it's not dampened the action between Connors and Buchanan. that we were seeing there. Lachlan Capel holding on to second, but that's a relatively defensive line as he starts to go down the middle of the road, and then you can see the crest downhill into what's even a big braking zone for these cars, where nothing seems like a particularly huge braking zone. And your top speed is like 180 kilometers an hour. There's only so much speed to bleed off. The leaders have taken that white flag. That's a bit of understeer. That's the textbook of understeer through the final corner there. Is there a car on the outside? There is not. There is not. But you're not going to convince Brady Buchanan to lift. He's had too many unbranded Monster Energy drinks to calm down in this battle. Now he looks like he picks up a bit of the understeer around the outside in turn 1, points it for a speedy exit out of turn 2, and now it's his turn to come down the inside of turn 3. They're losing touch a bit with the cars in front, but my goodness, are they having a ripping little scrap, and they will have seen that white flag. Okay, that's going for a different prefecture.
I think that's a different kind of white flag that Anthony Connors has put up there, unfortunately, in the end of that battle, and surrendered that position to Brady Buchanan. So he's going to take that position as Buchanan. Unfortunately, Connor's going to lose out quite a few as there's contact between Capel and also Lehman, and that's ended up allowing Doyle to just slip on by out of nowhere.
Yeah, precisely. But through the final sector comes Jack Boyd. Perfect restart, and he has just had to time trial it ever since. He's going to square it off, take another win in Club Day Masters. He's a bit pleased with himself. Lee Harrison for second, and then Glenn Boyd for third. About this MX-5 scrap, though, because after that bit of contact, Lehman and Capel, Sean Doyle's holding on to second, and Brady Buchanan, I think he is trying to make some hay while the sun shines, and those drivers in front of him are a little rattled. Nick Skaryev in the picture as well. Big sends down the hill, you reckon, Cam?
I certainly reckon there is going to be probably more than a few big sends on the way down the hill if someone's going to see the opportunity. So we'll see what's going to happen between these drivers, but doesn't look like anyone's really close enough to get a move done. So they're all going to stay single file. No one really pulling up to try and get a move done. But Caleb Hydes is going to end up winning the MX-5 race in dominant fashion as standard procedure for him at this point, and Sean Doyle is going to come out of the final corner and be taking home a very, very happy second place after what happened on that final lap. And unfortunately, Capel and Lehman are going to have to settle for third and fourth in class, and Buchanan's going to come away with the top 5 finish.
What about you? I'm never too proud to take a freebie. Sean Doyle just positioned himself well in the right place at the right time to pick up some spots on the final lap, which sent Lachlan Capel and Sam Lehman back a little bit. We're either going to get the results or a replay of that, one or the other, to bring race 1 to a close in TCR. It was the Jack Boyd show. Lee Harrison, Glenn Boyd, Jackson Rehana, Andrew Hobby, Richard Brookfield, Angus Cook, Shannon McMillan, Matthew McMillan, and Vantage Yato.
And then you're going to go over the page to the MX-5 class with Hydes dominating that win there. Doyle going to come home with a second placed freebie. Capel going to round out the podium. Lehman fourth. Buchanan rounding out the top 5. And then you go back to Skaryev. Connor's going to end up back in seventh, unfortunately, after running wide on the final lap parity. So ninth, rounding out the top 10, Hayden Jackson and Greg Holmes, and then Darren Sharp, the final car in the field.
Well, certainly some action at Twin Ring Motegi. That's what you're coming to expect, especially in the kind of cars we race here that race really close. There's only a few tracks in the world where MX-5s and TCR cars aren't going to produce some ripping bumper-to-bumper action, plenty of side-by-side. We have a little break now between race 1 and race 2. Matthew McMillan's decided he's going to use the warm-up. Everyone else, I think, feels they don't need a warm-up. They need to cool down before race 2 in about 3.5 minutes' time. we might do likewise here on SimSpeed. We are going to take a little break. We are going to do the sponsor reel and, of course, thank Air Conditioning Sales for being today's primary sponsor. Roll the tape, Jay.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Well, thank you to our supporters of Club Day Masters who make this series and this broadcast possible. We are still gearing up, cooling down, getting ready for race 2. But let's take a second look at one of the hot moments in race 1, which really shook up the podium order in the MX-5s on the last lap. Sean Doyle getting down the inside as Capel and Lehman had a bit of contact in the right-hander that leads the cars out underneath the banking and the oval for the first time. So let's take a look. That looks like Capel well and truly clear of Lehman as we come into the braking zone. Well, is that optimism from Lehman?
I want to say it is, but let's see what's going to happen as Connors was actually still recovering there in the background, nearly made contact with Scary, but we'll have a look from another angle and you can see he's just going to dive to the inside. I want to say it almost looks like he's missed his brake marker there rather than trying to have a move there. Yeah, it's a lot hard to tell what's actually transpired there, whether he's actually had a dive or whether he's just happened to have missed his brake marker. Well, he did pull a gear, so...
Did he miss his shift? Did he get 5th when he went for 3rd? And therefore didn't have the engine braking he was expecting?
Maybe.
Oh, I mean, who amongst us has never done that? No, I'm much more of a grab 2nd when I wanted 4th. Expensive kind of guy. We can put that to the back of our mind, though, as they grid up for race 2. Progressive grid between race 1 and 2 here in Club Day Masters. No new qualifying session to set the grid. They line up as they finished, which means Jack Boyd and Lee Harrison for row 1 and Glenn Boyd and Jackson Rayhana for row 2. But critically, those positions that we saw Sean Doyle grab on the last lap not only means points in race 1, but it means a good starting position for him, 2nd of the MX-5s here in race 2. And everyone's on the grid, so we drop the green flag a little earlier than maybe I was expecting. We're roaring into life, racing in race 2. Horrible start from Richard Brookfield, who drops all the way to the back. But at the front, Rayhana is putting the pressure early on Glenn Boyd. Glenn Boyd well wide. Andrew Hobby's going to sneak through as well.
Yeah, certainly a very, very shuffled start, that one in the TCRs. I think the quick start possibly caught a few off guard, but everybody seems to have made it through. Hobby trying around the outside of Glenn Boyd, and he's just going to make that happen in the end. And Harrison off the road in the foreground, managing to get back on safely
Buchanan
and nicely.
and Connors and the MX-5 field, they are together. Here's Buchanan getting back on the track. I'm not quite sure how they got wedged together in turns 3 and 4. Turn 4 was, well, hardly a corner for some of the TCR cars once again, as a lot of them run wide. And that looks like a driver who's just not sure of their suspension or their steering. That really looked like Anthony Connors just trying to feel out the damage, walking off the injury after he stacked his BMX, potentially. Winners so far on lap 1. Vantagiato up 3, Raihana up 1, Richard Brookfield, he was back 4, now he's only back 3. Raihana having a look around the outside of Lee Harrison and making that work. So the cold tyres, not a problem for Raihana. For Lee Harrison and Glenn Boyd, maybe a little bit more in MX-5. As Greg Holmes has blunted the nose of his MX-5 once again. How has that one happened? With Buchanan, maybe.
This is the first incident. Oh, and Connors just got a little bit loose on the exit of the corner. Unfortunately, he ended up running into the side of Buchanan, who just ended up being an innocent bystander in that one, unfortunately. So both of them carrying a little bit of damage, and both of them managing to continue on. And I think the Holmes incident was more or less just his own doing, just a little bit too eager on the throttle. Didn't look like there was any contact between those three.
MX-5s can be a little twitchy on those cold tyres, that's for sure, before they get any pressure in them. There's sort of a road construction, and low PSIs as road construction tyres are very, well, they move around a lot.
Yeah, they certainly do. This will get a virtual racing school replay, and we'll see the big drift from Jack Boyd ending up
If
out
you know
in...
how to if in Tokyo. Are in Japan, and that is the Tokyo drift.
And we're not too far down the road from Tokyo, so I'd say that's fairly accurate.
By the scale of our countries, I think everything in Japan is just down the road from Tokyo. Or, you know, by the speed of their trains, everything's just a couple stops away from Tokyo.
Probably not even that. Hop and a skip, I'd say.
So Jackson Raihana to the lead of the race in TCR at the moment. Jack Boyd has worked his way all the way back to 8th, and this is the lead battle from the front bumper of Lee Harrison, looking at the rear bumper, Jackson Raihana. The top 6 are all in a line, all squished together, and Lee Harrison just showing the nose at this braking zone.
Yeah, just trying to...
Oh, Hobby wide.
Oh, and Hobby's wide just in the background there, and that's going to allow Vantagiato to sweep around the outside or not, and that's contact between himself and Vantagiato. Vantagiato's just going to hold on to that. More contact between them as the rejoins happen, and Cook nearly going to end up involved in that one.
Ooh, and there's a slowdown as well for Vantagiato that he's got to give up on the pit straight, so he might end up almost all the way at the back of the field. He got sent on a bit of a trip by Andrew Hobby there, but it is a tough final sector, the way it sort of starts very wide and then narrows down with the continuing left-handers and then into a tight right-hander. Wow. The MX-5s, Capel is up 1 spot, Lehman is up 1 because Sean Doyle from 2nd on the grid ended up back at 4th, but now lead battle in TCR to the right-hander that feeds them out of the infield and into the wide open spaces. Raihana still holds on. Land of the rising sun becomes the land of the extending shadow, the way the cameras draw underneath that oval.
Yeah, the sun's starting to get a little bit higher into the sky there, so the track is going to start to go up in temperature. It is up to 24 degrees now from 22 in qualifying, so it's been slowly getting warmer, but Harrison just starting to drop off the back of Rehana just a tad in the last lap or so, and that's allowing Glenn Boyd to just slowly move it closer to Lee Harrison and possibly getting a move done into second place. Meanwhile, behind them, it's all sort of still a single file of field. Brookfield's got his rear bumper occupied with Jack Boyd.
Jack Boyd's going to be one to watch trying to storm back through the field here because he was right at the rear bumper of Brookfield. Down the hill, it's relatively close, but he's looking for the wide entry. So easy to push wide and understeer. Brookfield's done it. He's got one tyre on the grass, and can Jack Boyd swoop around the outside here this time? The answer is he can, but what kind of exit is he going to get off the final corner? Not great. He's got his nose in front. Now it's his to defend if he chooses to do so. Motegi also in the picture here. Brookfield is going to look down the inside of turn 1. So too is, not Rehana, Angus Cook down the inside of Andrew Hobby into turn 1 as well.
And Cook's going to have to go defensive on the way down towards turn 4. As Hobby's looking to try and get a move done, but it's going to have to sign behind it. That's Motegi in the wars again.
There was 90% of a TCR car width down the inside. Motegi has muscled it to be an Audi RS3's width, but comes to a bit of grief once again in turn 3. SVG punted me there one time in an IndyCar league. This is what I'm talking about. There is one car width.
I almost want to say Brookfield sort of moved over on him there.
Definitely, they'd gotten on the brakes and then a little bit of contact door to door stopped Vantagiato slowing the car up and sort of sent Brookfield a little sideways as well. They don't... You can lean on each other coming off the corner. I think you can lean on each other a little bit through the corner, but on the brakes, the rear is very, very twitchy and easily unsettlable for the TCR cars. Here's Sam Lehman, Nick in the background, and Hayden Jackson somewhere as well. But these fellas are all on the tow hook? Or they've all just decided they want to take 1 minute pit stops? Well, show us their pit entry then, Mr. Director. A couple more TCR cars that are also doing the pit in. Well, I think it was already going slow.
Yeah, very oddly slow actually. Was it there? Not quite sure. We'll see if he's popped an engine possibly, but yeah, very, very odd to see him going very, very slow there on the way down the hill. Yep, there's the plume of smoke, and I'd say those piston rods have become satellites.
Well, there's Sam Lehman showing us how not to take the pit entry. He's got in too hot, he skipped across the grass, and that's a penalty. But what about Skariev? Did he do the same? We're going to take a look. Instructor says put on the brakes, and the student drivers missed those very important little tiny itty-bitty bollards at the apex there.
Yeah, that's, as a result, it caused a penalty. Very, very easy to do there on the way into the pit entry. So unfortunately, both those
Capel and Hides. Just been contact between Hides and Capel.
Yeah, on the way into turn 1, by the looks of it, sort of just came together, and Hides using the front bumper a little bit too much, unfortunately. He has readdressed the position, and then I think he's managed to get it back. Well, they're redressing now by the looks of it, so going to slot in behind it, and Capel will resume the race lead, but that certainly will have held them up a little bit as a result.
Yeah, they've got to consider where they're going to be compared to some of the other drivers who have pitted, like Sean Doyle, Darren Sharp, potentially. Darren Sharp's been handed a couple of free positions by the penalties that got handed out for the improper pit entry to Sam Lehman, Nick Skariev, and the blown motor for Hayden Jackson. Andrew Hobby, in TCR, also with a improper pit entry. I didn't see many penalties like that in race 1, but apparently race 2 the gloves are off, and so too are the braking markers for the pit entry.
I didn't really see anybody get any sort of penalty in race 1 from the pit entry, but it seems everybody's sort of forgotten how to take pit entry in race 2 by the looks of it. So a few falling victim to being a little bit too aggressive with the pit entry, but here comes Caleb Hydes on Lachlan Capel. He looks to the inside on the way down towards turn 11, but not quite going to get a move done. Just decides to brake a little bit early and just try and make Capel run a little bit deeper, and as a result caused him to lose a bit of momentum, and both of them going to come down onto the lane this time by.
And I want to take a look at what's just happened to Glenn Boyd, because he was skating through the runoff at turn 2, and I missed precisely who he made contact with. Or maybe it was someone coming out of the pit lane, because that can always be a bit of a danger. You're at speed, someone a bit slower off pit exit is down the inside. It's Angus Cook. The way turn 1 and turn 2 flow into each other, some drivers keep it really tight between the two apexes, and some drivers send it out a little wider, and the difference of lines between two drivers sometimes catch you out, and it did lead to this contact here.
And Cook had only just come out of the lane as well, so possibly a little bit of difference in tyre temperature there between the two of them, and Cook possibly running just a little bit wide, and unfortunately contacts ensued there. I'm surprised Boyd didn't quite hold it as well as he did, but with a smoke out of turn 1 there from Caleb Hyde, so not quite sure what's possibly transpired there, and the caution has come out.
Yellow, 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 safety car boards and flags. We're going to get that safety car again. That's what I mentioned, that sort of bit back and forth between Capel and Hydes. Let Sean Doyle get really, really close with his clean and early pit stop and running around in clean air. So Lee Harrison is the TCR race leader. He's going to push Hayden Jackson along. Hayden Jackson is going to get waved past the safety car, and the safety car is going to pick up Lee Harrison. So Hayden Jackson, I don't think, is going to need a wave around this time. But only just. That safety car had been called 10 seconds later. Where is that? Oh, there is that Porsche safety car. Hey, no! I don't want to get any other racing series in trouble, but because my friends were racing it, I was watching the Champ Car Endurance Series at Watkins Glen this weekend, and their safety car was a rented Ford Mustang convertible. There aren't Hertz insurance papers for, yes, I'm going to put it on track at Watkins Glen as the safety car. So, just hope no one from Hertz was watching that coverage. No, they're all asleep in the USA right now, Jay. Especially insurance agents. It's funny, they're putting all the stickers on the rental car, being like, hope these come off cleanly.
Oh, bit of a heat gun. Should be all right. Just melt the sticker off. There you go. Problem solved.
But here's the genius, is they managed to get a white one. It wasn't, some crazy, fancy color, chrome something. It was just slightly glossy white. Pearl white or something. So, easy fix.
Probably your best option since wouldn't show the adhesive lines very well.
In another case, like today, where I'm pretty sure if it tried, the safety car could go faster than any of the race cars, because even a automatic EcoBoost Mustang convertible, it's on some reasonably wide tires, shifts very quickly, doing closer to 300 or something horsepower. It's yeah, some of those MX-5s aren't going to keep up.
Yeah, probably not very well, at least.
I always like these safety cars when it ruins someone's race, but it's everyone's too clever for that. They've gone and pitted early and ruined their own races on pit lane early by, well, damaging some sacred Japanese grass.
Yes, there's been a few caught out by that pit entry today in both classes, really. Actually, no, just the MX-5s. I don't think anyone in TCR is
Hobby.
caught out. Hobby is, that's right. So it is in both classes, actually. I stand corrected.
But we don't expect to see anyone pit under this safety car. It doesn't really make sense unless you were Nick Scarriov or Hayden Jackson at the very back of the MX-5 field with a bit of damage on, and you decided, let's just fix that right up for everyone in TCR. Doesn't make any sense. Oh, look at those fans. They're on their feet, just like everyone for Helio Castro Neves. Has it been enough hours that I can do spoilers?
Probably is. It's at least the other day in the same place, so I'd say it probably is.
Of course, one of the things that comes to my mind for Twin Ring Motegi here is that it's the scene of Danica Patrick's victory.
First and only.
Precisely. What makes it memorable? Did you watch the 500, Cam?
No, I was being a sleepy boy and did not watch. When I woke up, I did watch like the last 20 laps though, so that was okay.
It's kind of heartbroken for Scotty Mack, to be honest. He was actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, that was a big F. And then big F for Dixon as well with the star motor.
Yeah. And not the only one, you know, the Honda Power's the winner, but apparently if you let your Honda run out of fuel, it doesn't like restarting.
Yeah, it clearly doesn't. Needs giggle juice to start itself up, and yeah. I guess it's like a diesel, probably. And if you let the tank run out, you're probably going to have a bit of problems.
What they used on the commentary was vapor lock, or something wherein, you know, you end up with air bubbles in places that there should be fuel, and it doesn't clear itself the way you'd hope.
Yeah, air bubbles in a fuel line is... King Firm, not ideal.
Read any good books lately?
Not really a book reader myself, to be honest. So I can't comment on that one.
I went to the Brisbane Model Train Show, got a free copy of Australian Railway Modeler, so lots of good pictures of itty-bitty model trains in that. So I'm not so good with the words, but the pictures, that's my reading level. Well, once again, it's going to be less than 10 minutes on the clock when we restart. And I think the drivers I'm going to have my eyes on at this restart. Jack Boyd was far back as 8th or 9th or something, has worked his way to 3rd, sits behind Lee Harrison and Jackson Rehana. Oh, it's a convenient graphic for it. Started 1st, ended up at 8th, now back to 3rd, and he's going to have 5 laps or so to regain his Samurai's honour. Who else to watch? Glenn Boyd, potentially. Andrew Hobby from the very back of the TCR field. And then, well, MX-5 could be interesting because Lachlan Capel was kind of hanging with Caleb Hydes in race 1 for a bit there. Sean Doyle has launched his way right back up into second place again as well. Skariev all the way back in 10th after being a naughty boy on pit lane. And Sam Lehman 8th as well. So I think there's a couple cars in both classes that have really got to, get their head down on this restart, Cam.
Yeah, they certainly do, especially in that MX5 class. And I can imagine there's probably going to be a few sins happening in that class as well, with the likes of Lehman, Buchanan, and a few others wanting it to move their way back forward. But the safety car is in the lane. Lee Harrison's going to lead us off the restart, waiting, and Cook getting a little bit eager there off the restart. But we are away and racing, and a very, very nice jump by Harrison, and a very, very nice start by Glenn Boyd as well, looking up the inside. Jack Boyd, looking up the inside of Jackson Rounder, decides to back out of it, and Cook trying to sweep around the outside of Jack Boyd, but going to be nothing happening there in the end, and a couple of the MX5s as well battling it out. Anthony O'Connor's trying to get around the inside.
Darren Sharp almost got sandwiched in the middle of that one as well. He had to back out and has lost a position or two, and now a huge loss of positions because Philip Paradiso and Anthony Connors are both in the wall. Paradiso has gone for a nasty, nasty ride, and the damage shows. How did those two get together? Because it was almost 3 wide in the field, and Philip Paradiso has realised that thing is not going to work its way back around. Let's take a look at mid-pack of the MX5 field. We were talking about some drivers who really needed to make some huge moves. So there's Connors. Does he just keep coming across, not aware that Paradiso is there because he's also got Darren Sharp on his left? Spotter call 3 wide a bit late. I think he's got Darren Sharp to his left who he's worrying about, and he's just unaware that Paradiso was hoping to keep a lane there on the outside.
Yeah, not entirely sure, but I'd say more than likely case, possibly just a little bit distracted by Darren Sharp, and unfortunately Paradiso has come off second best, but it's on for second place at the moment in TCR. It's a Summit Sam, as Jack Boyd is in a little bit of a Summit sandwich at the moment, trying to move his way forward. He's going to be on the outside of Rayhana as they head down the hill towards turn 11. He's going to break a little bit later and try and sweep around the outside. Not quite going to be able to do it, but holds his own. And now Cook's going to get involved in this, try and hang it around the outside, and he's going to manage to get that done as well. In contact nearly between them all, and Boyd with a little bit of contact between himself and Cook, and that's going to cause a massive check-up, and that's going to allow Brookfield to try and get in on this as well.
McMillan too has a decent run. Which one of the McMillans is that? Shannon McMillan now up into 4th. Slipstream in off of Jack Boyd. It's not as aggressive on the way down on the inside, but he's going to try to hold his place around the outside, and Jack Boyd is a lucky boy to hold on to 3rd place. It's all checked up behind Richard Brookfield at the minute. Oh, get the inside. That's not going to work.
There's a little bit of contact between McMillan. I think it was Brookfield on the way in the braking zone, and that's just sent McMillan wide as a result, and not been the way that McMillan will have hoped that situation will have gone.
Well, action aplenty across both of our classes on this restart, and I think they clicked 4 laps to go. Here's MX5, where Caleb Hydes has gotten away to... no, Caleb Hydes hasn't gotten away to much of a lead at all. Lachlan Capel, Sean Doyle, and Brady Buchanan are with him here. There you see the Drop Bear Motorsports car leading. And I think the fighting amongst the cars behind him is one of the things that helps Caleb Hydes break away to a bit of a lead off of these, because Doyle and Buchanan are giving each other plenty to think about, and Lachlan Capel is trying to get away. They're up the road. More door banging and barging in TCR. Andrew Hobby has gotten down the inside of Matthew McMillan. Promptly parks it back on the racing line. Huge send from Glenn Boyd is going to get down the inside of that corner as well, but he gets good rotation and good drive off the inside, unlike when Jack Boyd was around the outside there and got into a bit of a slide in the off-camber downhill corner.
Yeah, McMillan's also lost about 3 positions in the space of 2 corners, really, after being shuffled out by Vantaggiato at the hairpin, and then sort of slotted in on by at the following corner or so. So he's not had a good run in that last bit of that last lap, so he'll be having to try and get on by these guys again. And he's starting to lose a little bit of time as ground at the moment out of turn 2, but nevertheless Vantaggiato's trying to catch up to Brookfield, but he's also got to worry about Hobby, who's all over his back bumper at the moment, really pressuring the back of that slipstream car.
Yep, crazy stuff in TCR, as we knew there were some drivers desperate to make some moves in a very few short laps, and that can bring the spice, bring the action. Sam Lehman, by the way, I said might pick off a spot or two. He's joining the back of the lead pack in MX5. He's been mighty quick, matched only by Caleb Hydes at the front of the class. It's about 8/10 faster than Doyle and Buchanan on the last lap, and that's let him get into the slipstream here as well. And they took 3 laps to go, 2 to go when they get to the line, so there's still time for Lehman to close up and still see himself on the podium potentially, a place where he's been many a time this season already.
Yeah, he certainly has been on the podium many times this season so far, and he'll be able to try and add to that as well. And Ryan is now going to have his mirrors full of your championship leader, Jack Boyd, who's going to want to try and find his way on by in the next lap or so, as we're not too far away from seeing the white flag. I don't think he's going to be able to get to Lee Harrison, but we'll see what's going to happen, and miracles can happen, so we'll have to wait and see if Jack Boyd is going to be able to make his way to the front of the field. But on board with Andrew Hobby here, and looking very close to the back of Vantaggiato's rear bumper. Didn't quite
Hobby's got to defend. Potentially. Glenn Boyd behind him had a slightly better run. It's forced Hobby into going quite deep into turn 1 wide, and he's going to gather it up for the apex at turn 2. I did feel like Hobby was feeling a bit more pressure from Glenn Boyd than he was given in front. And then his battle for second. How do you get past if you're Jack Boyd?
Yeah, that certainly is the big question. How and where as well do you make that pass happen, and when do you make it as well? Do you wait an extra lap to set the pass up, or do you just do it hell for leather and try and get it done as early as you possibly can? We'll see what's going to happen. It's not too bad of a run out of turn 5 I should say, and turn 6 as well, ending up the hill towards the back end of the circuit, and he's all over the back bumper is Jack Boyd. He's looking like he's ready to get a move done here, and I would not be surprised if it happens at the hairpin.
Somehow there's been a bit of a mistake from Lee Harrison. They've caught him a bunch as well. He was almost a second up the road. Now he's right there. So, plenty of action for the hairpin. Admire the optimism from Vantaggiato. At every single opportunity, he'll put the pressure on. And the pressure's still on for the lead. Lachlan Capel suddenly giving Caleb Hydes plenty to worry about. Sean Doyle almost no man's land in third, because Sam Lehman has caught Brady Buchanan, and they are fighting tooth and nail, and that is going to start slowing them up, particularly as Buchanan has a bit of a slide at the apex, and then kind of escorts Sam Lehman onto the grass. Hello.
Yeah, bit of contact going on there.
I think Buchanan noticed, realised that was a bit naughty.
Yeah, I think you're right. There is the moves happened on the last lap, at the start of the last lap as well, between Jack Boyd and Angus Jackson Rehana, at turn 1, and now Boyd's going to be stuck on the outside for the following corner at turn 3. Is he going to be able to get around the outside or not? Rehana breaks a little bit later, and a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between the two of them, and Boyd's getting up running a little bit wide as a result. Doesn't look like there's any damage, but that's really going to hurt his chances of getting to the front of the field and possibly getting in to second as well.
Jackson Rehana. Here's Richard Brookfield, as he's got to defend from Vantaggiato and Hobby and Glenn Boyd on the final lap. Vantagiato takes a look down the inside of the kink here. It's the shorter way around, but it becomes the outside as he's about to find out as they go into the S's, and Vantagiato loses out, but he's going to try to swap back over-under on Richard Brookfield, get a good run towards turn 9 as it is. Brookfield's got it covered, so Vantagiato around the outside, and then, it just opens the door for Hobby as well. Again, Brookfield without the momentum, but just holding the inside line as we go around on the final lap.
Yeah, just holding the inside, and Vantagiato is going to try and sweep around the outside. He should have the momentum on his side with the much better exit, and it's looking like it's going to work in his favour, as that Brookfield's going to have to go defensive. Vantagiato is going to be on the outside 2x2 on the way down towards turn 11. Hobby's going to get up the inside of Glenn Boyd. Brookfield's going to take that position off Vantagiato. Nearly going to lose it. The Hobby actually is going to be side by side out of the final corner, and contact between the two of them. But Harrison going to end up taking out race 2 here and come away with a very, very nice amount of points.
Yeah, he will. Then Jackson Rehana and Jack Boyd. Angus Cook, I don't seem happy with 4th place, but 5th on back is where the action was in the final section of corners there as well in TCR. The MX-5s are, here you can see Caleb Hyde's not going to be too worried about Lachlan Capel, but he's still going to go middle of the road to cover off an almighty send, but there's just too many car lengths back there for Lachlan Capel. Over 3rd, though, Sean Doyle has been caught a little bit by Sam Lehman. Not enough for Lehman to have a dig, though. I don't think you can just see them in the background about spaced sort of evenly at half-second intervals through the final couple of corners here. Great rotation and change of direction for Caleb Hyde. Puts the power down cleanly, and he's going to grab another win in MX5 in Club Day Masters. Clean sweeping this evening as well, it would be said.
Yeah, once again, coming away with a very, very nice, handy points lead, heading into the final round as a result of taking another 2 race wins. So he'll be very, very happy with that and be in a very strong position to take out the class title once we get to the end of the final round. And coming across the line, there is Darren Sharp coming home in 7th in class, and then Greg Holmes 8th in class there.
Yep, so your semi-official results. Lee Harrison, winner in race 2 from 2nd on the grid. So a 1st and a 2nd for Harrison, plays a 1st and a 3rd for Jack Boyd. So that would put Lee Harrison as a sort of our round winner today as well. But in race 2, he finished on the road ahead of Jackson Rehana, Jack Boyd, Angus Cook, Richard Brookfield, Vantagiato, Glenn Boyd, and Andrew Hobby, losing out in the final corner there as he went door to door with Vantagiato and Glenn Boyd. Then the McMillans get 9th and 10th, but I think that undersells them because I think it was Matthew McMillan was all the way up in 4th at one point in this race before he, there was a bit of contact potentially on the way into turn 3, whatever it was. They raced really well today to then only get 9th and 10th. I don't think that gives them the props they deserve for the exciting racing that they had in Club Day Masters.
Yeah, certainly would have liked to finish a little bit higher after having some very, very good pace in that 2nd race. But Caleb Hyde's, again, your race winner in MX5. Capel not quite able to get there in the end. Will come home in 2nd. Doyle rounds out the podium with Lehman and Buchanan in the top 5. At Jackson 6th, 7th to Sharp, 8th to Holmes, Scarrier and Connors round out the top 20. Then Paradis. So unfortunately, having it to DNF after that massive incident out of turn 2.
I was secretly hoping for a replay of Andrew Hobby and the others in the final corner on the final lap there. As we we'll grab that, we'll take a look at that, and then after we will pick the brains of some of our drivers. Got some drivers lining up for some interviews as well. We saw a couple times the fact that the final section of corners there, the final complex, is sort of wide left-hander, slightly tightening left-hander into a tight right-hander. drivers would try to come around the outside to be the inside for the right-hander, and vice versa. It did lead to some different lines and some contact sometimes. So Cam, I had my eye on this one live as well, but it's kind of a case of 3 into 2 doesn't go. Is that the sums you were seeing on this one?
I'd say it probably was, based on how it all panned out in the end. Hobby got a little bit of a run on Fantagiato, but Boyd saw the opportunity to launch it up the inside, and unfortunately contact ensued, and Hobby was left sent into the grass and having to come home a little bit further down the order than he probably should have in the end, unfortunately.
The track that he cut, he's actually lucky he didn't get a super big slowdown, that he would have had no time to serve as well, and ended up behind Matthew McMillan was not far behind him in the picture as well. Had just gotten on track before the apex there. I'm not sure, but certainly it was a case that it's the final lap and the final corner. If you think you can grab a position, you're going to go for it.
Yeah, 100%. You're going to try and get that extra position you can, especially with how close it is in the championship for the likes of Glenn Boyd and that. But nevertheless, we've got a few drivers standing by for an interview.
Sure do. Let's go to someone that I'm not sure I've ever spoken to before, but finishing on the podium twice in the MX-5 field tonight. Lachlan Capel, do you copy?
I do. Yes, I do.
Well, a double podium, I think you're going to be relatively pleased with.
Yeah, this is my third race in this league, so yeah, I'm pretty happy. Been on the pace quite a lot, and I'm actually quite surprised on how fast I am compared to the rest of them.
A little bit of contact between you and Caleb Hydes that we caught a little bit of before the safety car, methinks. What happened there, and how did you see it?
Well, I was turning into turn 1, and all of a sudden I got a hit on the inside, and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm not really sure what happened. I think he just kind of broke too late, and just sent it in, didn't see it, but he readdressed, he apologized. I really couldn't be asked to protest it, so I think it's just really a racing incident, especially if he gave it back. And I had another crack at him later on the race, I just couldn't get it done. But yeah, he's one fast dude, an alien almost.
Don't say that while he's listening. I think both races, we always wonder when the safety car might be. There's a random element to it, but it seems like it was a little bit deep in the race, both races. No one getting caught out, having not made their pit stop, and quite short sprints to the end after those safety cars as well.
Yeah, the safety car for me is a good timing, because usually when I have about 2 or 1 lap of fuel left, I pit, and basically both times I came out of the pits and the safety car would come out. So I think the safety car's pretty good timing for the MX-5 field, at least at the front, where you get to jump in just at the end, just before the safety car comes out. And it's quite a long track, so you're kind of just sitting there driving, waiting for the safety car to finish. And yeah, it was quite interesting to see how the safety car just had the really good timing for the MX-5 field.
Well, I'll once again offer my congratulations. 3rd in race 1, 2nd in race 2. It's a decent haul of points, and well done. Who are you going to thank?
I'd just like to thank 93PC and Computer Technology Corporation.
See you in the next one.
Will do. Thank you very much.
And then from a double podium finisher in MX-5 to our round sweeping winner, Cam Dance is going to grab Caleb Hydes.
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, Caleb, another very, very dominant victory and a very nice haul of points.
Yeah, it was good. Happy with the solid results tonight. Obviously 2 wins. Basically the best you can get. So, no, I'm happy with that, and it was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I'm pleased with how it went.
And obviously, in both races, you had to sort of work for it a little bit, and obviously a few coming together with Lachlan Capel. How did you see it in terms of your perspective?
Yeah, it was a fun night battling with Lockie actually. And that slight collision we had at turn 1, I took a bit of a sharp line and understeered into him and hit him on the back. So that was my bad. He got into like a half spin, but I slowed down, make sure he would keep the position. Because you know that's fair. You know it was my fault. So yeah, but it was good battling with him and like all the way to the checkered flag. He was right on me and putting the pressure on. So yeah, he did a fantastic job and yeah, props to him.
Well, one round remaining, and you've acquired yourself quite a nice lead in the championship. What's the aim for the final round of the championship? Are you going to try and score another few wins, or is it just going to be bring it home and seal the deal?
Both. We'll try and grab the win not only in the race and also the championship. But if we can't do that, you know, just be making sure we get to the finish. Because it's a 1 hour enduro around Spa. Anything can happen, especially in these cars, and then the TCR is going around as well. So yeah, just keep it clean and hopefully get to the end and have a decent result.
Well, before we let you go, just any thanks and any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, big thank you to whole team at Drop In Motorsports, team sponsors, and everyone who runs the Club Day Masters.
Well, there you have it, David. A reasonably happy Caleb Hides, and I believe that you are standing by with what is effectively our round winner.
Yeah, Lee Harrison, second in race 1, and then the winner in race 2. Consistency pays the biscuits. If that's even an expression, I've made it one.
Well, you've coined that one tonight, David, so we'll roll with that. But yeah, pretty good to pick up the round win again. Just wish we did it more frequently. Obviously, we've had a few bad rounds, which has killed us in the championship, and we're not really in the hunt anymore. But it's good to still pick up these round wins and put Slipstream Motorsport up the front.
Didn't see any problems for you, but in that second race, my goodness, 5 or 6 drivers with penalties for coming in too hot on pit lane and missing that little chicane. Can you explain why that's such a difficult little bit on the pit entry?
You don't really see it until the last minute, and even the first time I practiced my pit entry tonight, I missed it and would have got a penalty. Lucky we did that in the practice session, but yeah, I spent a lot of time practicing my pit entries this evening once I realised that chicane was going to be pretty pivotal, and I think it showed in race 2 where I jumped Jackson by a couple of seconds, and I think it was all just the pit entry, but unexpected, and all you had to do was miss it by half a car width and you're getting a 41-second stop-go penalty, so very tricky.
And we certainly saw car-to-car contact in the TCR field. It's a bit of a contact sport at times. I guess in race 2, Jack Boyd just getting the wrong end of that, and you somehow managed to keep it clean.
Yeah, well, this field's really close, and every move, everyone's battling for sheep stations out there because once they're in front, you're going to have to work really hard to get back by. So under safety car, I was really hoping for some battling to happen behind me, and I just knew that I'd just put my head down and get away at the front and then manage my own race from there. So glad to see a little bit of battling in my mirrors. Hopefully the contact wasn't too severe, and hopefully no tickets get raised from it. But yeah, this TCR field's really tough. We were sort of talking about it just before. It's really hard to win a race in this field, so I'm happy to be standing on the top step tonight.
Favorite Japanese dish? Are you a sushi man? You go for some chicken katsu? What's on the plate?
I'm just going to have some nigiri sushi, really. Just get some tempura vegetables and chuck that on a slab of rice, and we'll celebrate with that and some sake tonight.
That's a good plan. I cannot argue with that at all, and there's real things you're not going to have trouble getting your hands on. Congrats on double podium finish and the biggest points haul from Motegi.
Thank you very much, David, and thanks to my beautiful wife for letting me do my favourite thing in the world, and thank you to SimWorks, SimSpeed, Digital Marketing Tribe, Club Day Masters, obviously, Extreme Air Conditioning, Palmer's, Air Conditioning Sales and Manufacturing, Automotive Towing, Rinaldi, Prospect Pool and Spa, and KP Air for their continued support and letting us all do what we love every Monday night.
Thank you for making my job easier. See you around.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Well, Cam, I think that saves us needing to thank the sponsors after this one. Good on Lee Harrison for racing clean, racing quick, and paying the bills afterwards.
Yeah, certainly it's helpful when the admin knows what the sponsors are, so certainly wrapped it up very, very nicely there. But head to Spa next weekend for 1 hour enduro to wrap the championship up.
Now, Spa is exactly 7 kilometers. It's a very, very nice round number that is easy to remember. I can also tell you Monaco is 3.367 kilometers long because it's on my coffee mug right here. So 2 laps of Monaco, still not even a lap of Spa. It is a huge circuit, very, very fast along the Kemmel Straight, along everywhere, and that is where the slipstreaming is really going to be important for both of the classes car we race here in Club Day Masters. The TCR almost hitting the limiter in a slipstream sometimes, and those MX-5s, that's just how they race wherever on earth you take them. So don't miss it. It'll be here on SimSpeed next week, 7:40 p.m. Monday. Subscribe to SimSpeed on the Facebooks and the Twitters and YouTube and wherever you might be watching, because that is where you're going to see not only Club Day Masters but also the other great broadcasts we put together 7 days a week. I've been David Haynes, it's been Cam Dance with me, Jay Kennedy producing, and we will see you at Spa.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?